Alright, so I ended up messing around with a lot of things. I had a pretty late night trying to figure this out. It seems that I have an issue with my 10900K and the memory I'm using. And maybe it might be also the, well, I'm pretty sure it's the Z590. The thing is that I think the Z490 is more optimized for the 10th generation Intel CPU, and then it might be that this motherboard and the setup is actually more optimized for the 11900K. So what ended up happening is that I have these this memory. It's actually let me see if I can show you what I have here. The X&P on this is it's supposed to be 4800 memory RAM, and it's my Trident Z DDR4 Z Royal memory, and this worked actually perfectly fine in my Z490. Was able to get it to work, and I heard other people were having problems with being able to get that to work with their 10th generation, and unlike a Z490 chipset platform, it looks like that the I guess the next generation, and then putting this, I was not able to get this to run, this X&P profile to run. I tried to increase the voltage, I tried everything else that I could try to do. It seems that I can make this run and on 47, but then I have to actually pump this up to like 1.55, or I think I even just did 1.6, kind of maxed it out and then said, okay, let it go and see if it will actually run. But this became a little bit unstable, which was also a little weird. So when I was trying to run like some benchmarks, it wasn't working well. So what I ended up doing was kind of compromising and taking a look also at these other profiles that Lumi and Kingpin put on the motherboard, which they provide a lot of good insight, kind of what they are thinking and how they end up kind of processing and doing this kind of stuff. So what I have here is, let me see here, I'm going to load I created a couple of profiles. I went from default, and then I did another one where I prepared things for my first starting low voltages for LN2. Let me show you the default. So the default, what I did is I turned off like the fast boot, the speaker beep, because that gets a little annoying after time. Skipping home and then just showing the boot option so I don't miss it all the time. I don't think I did anything. The CPU configuration, graphics configuration, I went ahead and changed it so I'm using the dedicated graphics card, and I disabled the internal CPU graphics. PCIe configuration, I don't think I did anything here. PCH, I disabled ME. Power management, I like going into dark mode, so I just went ahead and turned this on. USB configuration, I think this was maybe one of the biggest changes that I did just for LN2. I disabled all the ports. These two ports are the furthest top ports, USB ports, next to the PS2 mouse, mouse keyboard port. I use that for my plug-in mouse and my keyboard, so I left these on. But then for any other USB ports, USB-C ports as well, plus the BIOS updating USB port, I disabled everything here. SATA configuration, I have no, I don't think I did anything there. Onboard device, I'm only using one NIC network connection. This one is actually from the top. There's two going downwards. This is the one that's on the bottom. This isn't actually on the top, which is funny. And then I disabled any sort of audio. I left the AS Media SATA controller, so that way I can use my Samsung 860 Pro, and that's just a SATA drive. I'm not using an NVMe because the NVMe would, I believe, conflict with PCIe usage and the graphics card. So usually people will do that. I think in my case I could probably end up just using the other, or just using an NVMe for CPU overclocking, but I think I just ended up having the hard drive, so I ended up just doing this for my last overclocking session. One more thing I noticed is because the Z590 has a 10th generation chip in it, the PCIe 4 enablement around the motherboard, it doesn't seem to be working very well, or it just doesn't work. So there's 3 M.2 slots, and it seems like the top slot is marked as PCIe 4. I ended up having to move my PCIe, like an NVMe drive or NVMe SSD, down to the second or M.2 or sorry, the M2 or the M3 slots instead of the M1 slot. The M1 slot is the one that's all the way up at the top, and then everything seems to be working. If I want to use my 10th generation, at some point I think I'm going to use my 11th gen chip. I have an 11900K someplace, and I have to kind of pull that out and put that in here and give this a try. The other things I did was I just disabled all the M.2 stuffs because I'm not using it right now. Again, I'm using my SATA drive. Let's see here. Hardware monitor configuration, I think I left everything alone there. Trusted computing, left everything there. And NVMe, there's nothing, so left that alone. So the other two big things are memory and then CPU. So with memory, this is where I settled. I pulled in pretty much Lumi settings on, I believe it's this profile here, and it's his daily. Yes, I believe this is the one I pulled in. Let me just double check. It's 1818, right? Now, interestingly, I think it's for let's see here. It's for a dual rank setup, but I think it's loose enough that it works for like a single rank, which is the memory that I have is a single rank memory. So here are the settings. I just kind of pulled them in. What's nice is that it's a command rate of 1. My guess it would be because the 11th gen, the memory controller on the CPU is stronger than on the 10th gen. It can probably handle memory much better, so you get more aggressive settings even for DDR4 dual rank. Now dual rank on the Z490, I was not able to get very satisfactory results. It seemed like single rank memory worked much better on the Z490. And then for dual rank, it kind of worked just whatever was advertised. So I think I'll probably end up trying some dual rank memory on this motherboard and seeing if I can do some overclocking on the memory or tweaking on the memory and see if it's any fun. I decided not to try the Patriot memory that I have on this, and I do have some crucial Ballistics Max memory that I could probably give a try as well. I also do have a set of 533 memory that comes from G.Skill, and I believe it's SK Hynix memory, so I think I might give that a try. For overclocking, I think I don't have any overclocking on this. Yeah, not on this one. So on another profile that I created, let me load up. I left everything else except I started with some really conservative settings. I started with my multiplier setting at 5.5 gigahertz across all cores. I know I could do this with LN2 relatively easy when I was on the Z490. Ring ratio, I bumped it up to 50, and that's just the cache memory. The other things that I ended up changing were that I had my extreme voltage mode and then my LN2 mode enabled, and then overrid the voltage. I started pretty conservative here. I think I I remember seeing in the profiles, like Lumi and Kingpin, they had things going to like 1.6 or even higher. And I believe that when I was on the Z490, I was a lot higher as well, like 1.6 or 1.65 or 1. Yeah, I think that's about it. The recommendation was to do something like small group. I increased the PWM frequency, and then these I increased as well and kind of set them pretty conservatively. I think I maxed out whatever they could be, like VCC PLL within the normal top range. At least that's what's kind of advertised over here. Except for the VCCIO, from what I understand, don't need to really go extremely high with this one, but can go higher later when I start overclocking. And then everything else, oddly in the 490, I believe the PCH voltage was something you had to modify to kind of increase. And here, it seems that the PCH voltage has just maybe out of the box increased pretty high. It's pretty funny that the normal range is actually starting at 1.8. So I have a sense that maybe this is what's causing some sort of havoc with the 10th gen chip that I have. But for overclocking, this is actually what I think you kind of want to be higher here as well. So anyways, that's the settings there. Again, here's the memory settings on this profile. And before I do this, I need to shut down the machine and kind of set up for the LN2, put on the LN2 pod and stuff. But at least what I thought to do is kind of show you this. What I'm going to do is load my default profile so I don't kind of blow up my system. And then once I get the LN2 on and get it down to a safe temperature, then I'll try to use this profile and then start increasing things. Use my LN2 profile. Let me save this and reset. Now, one of the things that I also wanted to do was show you, well, actually maybe before I go into Windows, let me show you something. What I ended up also having to do is you can kind of see here that my BIOS is at version 1.07. I think I have an earlier video where I was maybe showing the BIOS, but it was actually at 1.02. So let me go into Windows real quick and then kind of show you what I had to do, maybe the couple of updates that I did there. One of them definitely was this BIOS update. And what I like about the NVIDIA motherboard, or sorry, yeah, not the NVIDIA, the EVGA motherboard, is that you can actually take the files they give you, and you don't have to do this kind of like USB way of updating. You can actually just do it through a batch file that they provide you, and then the files you just unzip, the file that you find from them you unzip, and then kind of run their program, and then it does the update. So what I will show you is I went out to the EVGA site, and if you go to I think it's service and you go to drivers and BIOS, I went to motherboard. I searched for the Z590 and I had the dark version. I looked for BIOS and I did Windows 11 and I just did submit here. And I ended up seeing that there was this 1.07 version. So I downloaded this file. And then when you download that file, yeah, let's see here. I can show you the file. I think I put it in my own folder here. Yeah. So they provide you a zip file. Let me see if I can show you the. See if I can find this. well, let me forget that. So what I ended up having was a zip file here, and then I unzip the file. Then when you unzip the file, you got this update batch file. You can just kind of double click this file, and what'll happen is that it'll prompt you. To perform the update. You press any key, and I believe you have to also hit yes. I'm not going to do that now since I already updated my BIOS, but that was about it. It takes this BIOS binary and then updates your flash. I think that if you were to do this manually through the USB drive, you have to copy these files, make sure that this is on the actual root of the USB drive, and then boot up using the USB drive and then using their BIOS tool. I believe that's one way, and in the BIOS they do that. The other thing that I ended up doing was updating my EVGA ELEET. So I think there was a newer version of this. So let me see if I can show you what that looks like. So this is what it looks like. It kind of has a different feel to it than kind of the common blue I think it was before. Let's see here, just Wi-Fi settings. Yeah, so you can actually make adjustments here, I believe, but I think I'll give this a try maybe while doing my overclocking, seeing if I could just do it ad hoc here. But I believe that to make some of these voltage modifications, yeah, they won't let you go past a certain amount on some of these. Maybe they will. We'll have to give it a try and maybe see. But I think for I guess my purposes, I'll just stick to what I was doing before, and then I'll mess around with this stuff a little bit later. But then one more other feature, I can turn off the RGB. So that's kind of one of the things that I definitely wanted to do with this one. No need for that. Okay, so I think that's it. This is probably going to be my unboxing and maybe some initial setup to show you kind of what I have. And then I think my next video will probably be with me trying to take everything and run some LN2 against this. So I'll have maybe some test bench setup of my motherboard. I guess the putting on the pod and everything else, and maybe some explanation of things that I kind of learned and what I've set up from my previous time where I tore down my pod. Okay, that's about it. And if there's anything else for me to talk about, let me just check my notes. I think that's it. Yeah, so peace out, and catch you on the next video here when I try to run some of my leftover LN2. Thanks for watching. Bye.